Hi, friend. Welcome to the Your Audio Solutions podcast. Awesome to have you here. Before we get into the interview today, I want to tell you about something cool I recently learned. And I don't know if you know, but if you're into alternative rock, I'm sure you've heard records like Blood Sugar Sex Magic by Red Hot, Black Album, although that's more hard rock metal than alternative rock. But Black Album 10 by Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Bad Motorfinger, Nirvana, Smells Like Teen Spirit. I'm sure you've heard all these records, and that's records I love growing up. My friends love growing up too. That's records we played to learn how to play. We played together. So these records were huge inspirations to all of us, and I'm sure for you too. And not too long ago, I listened to or watched a Rick Beato video, and he was talking about all these records. And I knew they all came out in '91, but I didn't know it was in this 2 month, 3 month period they all came out. All these awesome records, like I just said, Blood Sugar Sex Magic, Black Album, Smells Like Teen Spirit, 10, Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, but Guns N' Roses, Take It or Leave It, Bad Motorfinger. But '91 was such a, well, first of all, that all these records came out in a 2 month period, that's just insane to me. And it's really awesome. And that these records, because they were such an inspiration, I don't know, it's just cool they all came out in this short time period. And I was too young. I was like 1 year old back then. But if you were alive back then and you were old enough to remember this, please let me know in the comments what the experience was like, having all these records coming out. It must have been so cool, honestly. Uh, but when I tell you what I want, but what I want to tell you as well is that I made a playlist from like all the best, not all the hits, but some of the cool songs from '91. Made this playlist on Spotify. I'm gonna link it below actually, so do check it out. There's some cool songs from all these different records that I mentioned, and some other cool records from that came out in '91. I included some songs from Primus and U2 as well, and some other cool songs. But feel free to add your songs, your favorite song from '91 that is not already in the playlist. It would be cool to celebrate the year of '91, maybe the best year of alternative rock ever. But yeah, check the playlist out. On the show today, we have composer, guitarist, session musician, Lyle Workman. He has done music for films such as Superbad, The 40-Year-Old Virgin, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and many, many other killer films. And he has his own solo records too, and he has a new one coming out. And his music is awesome, especially if into instrumental rock. There's some like Frank Zappa inspirations sometimes, and some really cool, really well quirky guitar riffs, melodies, and just awesome compositions. So do check his music out. It's awesome. Yeah, and as I said, he has a new record coming out, so check that out as well. I'll leave a link to all this music in the description below as well. But it was a real pleasure having Lyle on the show, and I'm sure you're going to love our conversation as well. And before we get into the interview with Lyle, I'd love for you to check out the Audio Tribe email list. There's a link to that in the description below as well. Just enter your name and email address, and you have joined the Audio Tribe. And if you join this email list, you get exclusive access to interviews before the public, a chance to ask up-and-coming guests questions, and much more that I'd like to do in the future as this channel grows. And having said that, please hit subscribe to the YouTube channel, to Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you are listening or watching this show. I really, really do appreciate your support. We're growing slowly but steadily, and it's all thanks to you. So I really, really appreciate it. And most importantly, I hope you enjoy the content and the interviews. But that's it. Let's get into the interview with Lyle Workman. So please enjoy. But Lyle, thank you. Yeah, first of all, thank you for taking your time. I really appreciate that.
Oh, thanks for your interest. I appreciate it.
Because I was listening to your records earlier today, like the Blue Morpho, however, if I'm pronouncing that
Okay.
correctly.
Yes, you are.
And the Harmonic Crusader.
Right.
And I know they're awesome records, man. And there's a lot of Frank Zappa vibes I get from those like some of the songs, not all of them, but some of the guitar lines are very Zappa-esque.
Yeah. Well, that's a big influence. I listened
Yeah.
to a good amount of Frank Zappa growing up, and
He's
yeah, this is a thing that he does with vibes. He uses vibes and marimbas a lot
mm,
in playing lines, and I've always liked that sound,
yeah,
this texture.
exactly. But also it's also the way, because I don't know if this is a different school of thought, but when I listen to your guitar lines, just I would my head would never be able to go there. Like with the harmonies you choose, the melodies you choose. So where does that all come from, and how do you think about it, if you think about it, unless it comes natural?
Well, I think it's definitely natural in that it's just I'm just informed by my experiences
Hmm.
uh, and my mixed with knowing about music technically, knowing certain rules, but then again deciding not to always go by them.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think a lot of it is just listening to. Uh oh, you dropped off for a bit. Okay, there you are.
Yeah,
It's
back.
having enough technique as a musician to be able to play the things that you hear in your head certainly helps. And it's just I just think if you listen to music and you're proficient on an instrument, it's going to be natural that you're going to be able to play those things that inspire you.
Hmm.
And I guess it really starts with at the beginning of trying to learn other people's music, really, essentially. And I certainly did a good amount of that. I think we all do.
Hmm.
Um, so you start building your harmonic grab bag and your facility on your instrument. And it's just kind of putting those all together.
Hmm. But I think this might just be my where I'm at in terms of my knowledge about melodies and harmonies, etc. But every time I make a harmony, let's say for a guitar line, I always think about it as, oh, let's make it a third harmony, for example, or a fifth, or an octave. But I feel like your melodies are not thought out like that. I mean, is that correct? Because that's also where the Frank Zappa sound comes from, I guess. Because he doesn't just use those traditional harmonies, I guess, whatever you want to call it. Is that something like do you pay attention to, or that also just comes from listening to a lot of music?
Yeah, it's just an intuitive thing. There's
Hmm.
really no thought process. There's no rule book. There's no all right. I have to do a parallel uh, fifths harmony part. It's never any of that. It's just all from intuition and just going with what my ear likes to hear,
Hmm.
essentially. That's it. So that's the only thing I'm going by. If it sounds good, I don't I don't care whether it's a part of a rule or a standard procedure or not. It's just all what sounds good to me.
Hmm. I mean, that's always the trick, I guess. In the end, if it sounds good to you, hopefully it sounds good to others.
Yeah, I think the thing that's maybe most informative about that is just when you listen to other music, you get inside it, and you if you learn to play it, then you can hear what it is, and you can play it, and you can duplicate it, and those things are kind of stored away in the subconscious. They're not really up in front.
Hmm.
They get borrowed from, but they're not informing you. They're not telling you what to do. So, because you really want to operate, at least I like to operate from a free perspective of just allowing things to happen naturally. So it's for me, it's mostly about intuition and allowing things just to come out, almost as if I have no, I'm not controlling the things that
Hmm.
happen. They just come to me, and all that would be informed by all my experiences of listening and learning how to play.
But how important do you think it is? Because you mentioned this just a minute ago, like being able to, express what you hear in your head or something like that. Intuition, whatever you want to call it. And I guess that comes down a lot to be able to also sing what you hear in your head to some degree, like being able to, like, how can you explain it? Like relate something here in your head to the guitar, which notes to pick, because that's always something I was terrible at when I started out playing, because I only focused on technique and trying to be cool that way, I guess. But I feel like reaching the level you are at, that's something I'm trying to work on more and more, and I think that's when you become a really good player like yourself.
Oh, thanks. I really do think it's a lot of it's training your ears.
Hmm.
And if one listens to a style of music or a piece of music, and that's all they listen to, I don't know if their horizons are going to be expanded to the part of getting to another level. They're going to sound like that. I just happen to listen to Holst and Electric Light Orchestra and Alan Holdsworth and the Beatles, and it's all the same to me,
Hmm.
and Glenn Campbell and pop music of the 60s and 70s and whatever.
Hmm.
So that's all in the back of my head, and I don't really I don't put them in compartments.
Hmm.
I allow them to mingle together. So I think that's why the music, uh, I think, has more of a melodic. It has a melodic. That's leading the charge for the most part. Melodies, chords, and melodies, and then rhythm, and that's all borrowed from all the things I listened to over the decades.
Right. But what do you think made you relate so much to that music? Is it because you grew up then, or just?
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
I think that's a lot. It's in the water. It's in the culture. It's in the rate. You turn on the radio. It's just I'd be in the back seat with my parents. And they have the radio on, and it'd be Wichita Lineman by Glenn Campbell, or or Hey Jude or something like that. The Beatles. Well, the Beatles are a big part of it. And if you listen, obviously there's a lot going on in the Beatles.
Hmm.
There's you've got Honey Pie, and then you've got Helter Skelter, and everything in between. So they were informed, their music was informed by all the stuff they listened to when they were kids. And you can definitely hear in Paul McCartney songs like Honey Pie, or uh, what's the other one? When I'm 64. I mean, it's kind of an ode to his dad's music, really.
Hmm.
Uh, but so
Have you heard his latest record, by the way?
if he listened to his dad play, and he played that
Hmm.
kind of stuff on the piano because that was the pop music of his day. So that's in his grab bag.
Hmm.
And then he's listening to Chuck Berry and um, Elvis and all that. So with the birth of rock and roll, so that's informing all that stuff. So I think I'm pretty much the same. I mean, not to compare myself with those guys, I never would, or ever will.
Hmm.
But I grew up during a very fertile period in music, in the 60s and 70s, through the 80s, where you know think about music that was written in 62 and then music written in 72 or then 82. I mean, as opposed to listening to music that was written in 92 and then 2002 and then 2012. I mean, there's differences, but is there that kind of difference? Are the differences that vast? I don't think so. So it was a very fertile period, and I started playing when I was young, so I was able to play guitar and teach myself and teach my ear
Hmm.
all this stuff. So it really has a lot to do with being in that period. I think is helpful.
Definitely. I mean, I mean the music. excuse me. The music then was obviously, also in my opinion, really really good. And yeah, I mean you shouldn't really compare it, I guess. But and I've said this maybe too many times on this podcast now, I guess. But so much of today's music does sound the same, for like what we hear on the radio. I think maybe back then, well, I'm just guessing now, but back then it felt like there was more people taking risks. You heard personalities come through. You heard people playing, like compared to today, right?
Oh yeah. Again, I think it's just what was around him. It was in the air and in the water. All the
Mm.
stuff. Um, yeah, I mean, it'd be fun being 23 years old right now, but then I wouldn't change it for all my experiences and being able to say that I remember hearing this when it came out or this, and uh, just, again, it was just a great time to be making to be
Mm.
alive and a musician.
But
I
also
mean, it's a
back
good
then.
time now
Sorry.
for other reasons, for sure. There's other
Mm.
reasons. There's so much exposure and access to pretty much anything right now through the internet.
Mm.
So I think that's why we're seeing musicians that are very young who have incredible facility on their instrument.
Mm.
If those people were able to play like that 30 years ago, they would be world famous. You
Right.
know,
Right. Right.
but I'm always
Yeah.
showing on the internet. Say, have you heard this guy? I go, no, and this guy in a bedroom, just like, whoa.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely true. The skill level has definitely gone up. That's for
Yeah,
sure. But I wonder if the artist, what is it called? Musicianship, maybe it's not the right word, but the the art, what's it called? The artisanship. I don't know if that's the right word or not, but I feel like maybe that's almost gone down, but people are just their skill level is higher. You know?
yeah. Well, to me, ultimately, what are you going to do with that ability?
Yeah.
You're going to frame it. Um, if it's going to be framed in playing covers, that's kind of the game. That's the end game, and that for some people, that they're happy with that end game, and that so it's not a criticism. Um, I I prefer hearing artistry, elevated with if they take what they're able to do and frame it with great music, just music. Uh, I think that's a bigger game.
Hmm. Exactly. And have you heard McCartney's new record, the third, I guess it is?
I have not heard it yet.
It's
I
pretty
got
cool.
it. Is it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
Saw him. I saw some ads for it or some little videos, short
right.
things. But what I've heard, just little snippets sound really good. But
Yeah.
I haven't listened to it yet.
He always gets such a great drum sound. I mean, he's a great drummer as well, which is cool. But he always
Yeah.
has this awesome drum sound, and his engineer is pretty good. So,
Who is engineering that record? Do you know?
I don't know. I should never seen the name before.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if he's just maybe his own like engineer in his home studio.
Yeah.
Not sure actually, but he did a fantastic job, and it's just fun hearing someone be creative because that's what I feel like the McCartney 3 is just him being able to express himself rather than trying to make
Yeah.
a particular thing, you know?
Especially at nearly 80 years old. I mean, that's pretty incredible.
Hmm.
That
Hmm.
that desire to create is still that high. And that's a long haul, man, from when he was 20.
Yeah, definitely.
It's great. No, he's wonderful.
But did you ever get into George Harrison's
Oh, of course,
solo music? Yeah,
of course. Yeah. All things must pass. Yeah.
yeah, that's such an awesome record, man. I mean, that's a play regularly is killer.
Yeah. I like a lot of his records. It's great. It's great songs. Um, I guess it was a real good thing that he was surrounded by McCartney and John Lennon.
Hmm.
That's not gonna up your game in your formative years. I don't know what will. Anybody stuck in that with those two guys in a room over that amount of time, their writing's gonna get better.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
George is great.
But do you think sometimes you hear these I don't know theories, whatever you want to call it, where if they allow George to express himself, maybe all these songs that weren't All Things Must Pass would have been a Beatles song, perhaps, because he was already that good. But your point
Yeah,
is super valid as well.
yeah. Well, I guess it just had too much goodness. It's like having a movie and it's 3 hours long. It's too long, and so but all the scenes are great. Or
Mm.
directors feel that they're great, but they can't for whatever reason. It's depending on genre. It has to be 2.5 hours or whatever. What I'm basically trying to say is that, here's one thing. There's a record. Record is what, 40 minutes long. Back in the day, you can't have a 50-minute LP. So something's got to give. But I mean, it certainly worked out for George.
Yeah, yeah.
If you look at Abbey Road, the two most successful songs are arguably his songs, with "Here Comes the Sun" and "Here Comes the Sun" and what's the other one? "Something."
Right.
Two of the most substantial pieces of music.
Yeah, I think Abbey Road is actually my favorite record. But I don't know, remember the track names, funnily enough. But the songs that end the record, there's like a few songs that just goes in and out of each other.
Yeah.
Those are my favorite ones.
Oh, they're so good.
Yeah.
So good.
Really, really cool songs, man.
Yeah.
But what was it with Frank Zappa that got you into him? I mean, was just because his guitar technique, sometimes I just look at it like how, sometimes I wonder, was he a shredder? But I don't think it was. He was just able to use this particular funny technique that made him sort of shred sometimes,
I think for me, I was more interested in his music than his guitar playing, even though I really loved guitar playing. It was the songs and the way that he put music together. More so on the instrumental stuff, tracks on the instrumental tracks on Roxy and Elsewhere for one, Live in New York, with the black page, and I really liked. It was like classical music to me, like rock classical music, because it had all this really heady stuff, in these crazy forms. And it was just it just appealed to my ear. It just really spoke to me.
I mean, yeah, his music is very fascinating. But so, what was it with his music in particular? Like you said, it wasn't particularly guitar playing, but was it how he arranged the instruments, or what was it?
Yeah, it's kind of everything. His sense of his choices of harmony. And it was kind of a world unto himself. He really, he created his own universe, and a pretty vast one, because he had sort of the doo-wop side of him, and then he had the 20th century modern classical influences, with Varese and Stravinsky, and I really liked. I just loved the way it sounded. I don't know if I can put it in another way.
Did you ever see him play a bicycle?
Oh yeah, I saw that footage. He was on. I think it was the Steve Allen show. Yeah,
that's hilarious.
Yeah, he really made his own thing. Have you seen the movie yet? The most recent movie?
Yeah, I got to see it.
That's great. So good.
Yeah. I didn't realize he was actually such a, what's it called, ladies' man. I thought he was actually like very stable,
Well, if you listen to the lyrics on some of his songs, that wouldn't be too surprising.
Right.
Dynamo Hum and things like that.
Right. But yeah, I mean, because I've always been terrible with lyrics. I need to read them to know what the person is saying. I've always been like that.
The way you said that, I thought I've always been terrible with ladies.
Oh.
You were just talking about Frank being a ladies' man.
Right.
Saying you were always terrible with lyrics, did you say?
Yeah. So it could be the saddest song lyrically, but the music can make me feel completely different. Then you read the lyrics and like, oh shit, I didn't know it was actually that bad.
Yeah.
Does that happen to you, or
people in different ways? That's one person's sad song is another person's uplifting song. It's just that's the beauty. That's the beauty of it.
Exactly, man.
Sort of bring our own psyche into what we listen to.
Definitely. But did you ever? Because I know you've been active in the scene for quite a while, like being a session guitarist. Were you ever active when Frank was playing?
Active as a session musician?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If you ever came
Well,
across his
towards
people.
more towards the end of his career, in his life.
Hmm.
Actually I do remember I was rehearsing with Todd Rundgren, and Todd came to rehearsal and he says, "I heard that Frank Zappa's really sick." It's just just brought it up. So yeah, I was definitely making music by that time
Hmm.
in the professional arena.
What did you do
Most of
to?
the time, most of the time I'm thinking about being in high school and listening
Right.
to Frank Zappa. That was the biggest period
What
for
was
me.
the perception of him back then? Because I guess if someone says now I listen to Frank Zappa, it's like, oh, I know that guy. But what was he back then? Was he even more popular, maybe, or even more obscure?
He was pretty popular.
Hmm.
He was definitely. Uh, the thing about music, if you knew the cool insider stuff, then you were the cool insider kid. You know what I mean? So you get together with your cool insider kids and listen to Frank Zappa records in the bedroom. That's what we used to do. Look at the album covers. Read the lyrics when they were there. Uh, but yeah, I definitely had several friends in high school that were huge Frank Zappa fans.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's also kind of a period of progressive rock and jazz fusion stuff like that. So I think kids that grew up with popular music, some of the kids that were musicians were enjoyed the music that explored more musicianship. And certainly in Frank Zappa music, all across the board, you could not be in that band unless you were really good on your instrument. So that
Right.
appealed to the one that were just focused on learning how to play and how to up their musicianship. So
Hmm.
that was
Hmm.
there.
Hmm. Makes sense.
Yeah.
But how did you get started? Like as a session guitarist, what was your foot in the door experience, so to speak, or gig, whatever you can call it?
I was playing in bands in high school, and then that leads to bands uh, in clubs and nightclubs, and that led to a band that I was with that got a record deal on Island Records,
Hmm.
and that led to Todd Rundgren producing one of our records, and then that led to me playing with Todd, and then getting out there in the world, in that world,
Hmm.
which led to other session work. So it's always these a little bit, I don't know if I want to say baby steps, but there are these logical steps to where you end up you end up playing on other people's records.
Hmm. But did you ever experience when you like a few years in, let's say, or even when you started out, um, maybe even now today, who knows? But like any struggles, like when it's been slow, where maybe that happened in the beginning, where you have one gig, then you have to maybe wait for a long time to the next one. Was that ever your experience too?
That's everyone's experience. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's very common. Yeah,
Right.
I mean, if you happen to be on a huge record, and if you're someone like Steve Lukather, he was at the right place at the right time, and he was really good. And so I mean, he was a lot of the session players of that era and before. Uh, they were living in Los Angeles. They were not. They were busy for a long time. I was living in San Jose, in Sacramento, in Marin
Hmm.
County. So there was definitely several periods of where I wasn't working that much, but I was always working on my own music. I always had tape recorders and boards, and those the means to record myself. So I was teaching myself production skills, engineering skills, and teaching myself, basically how to become an artist
Hmm.
by not being working all the time for other people. So it was kind of I don't want to say a blessing in disguise. Yeah, I guess you could say a blessing in disguise.
Hmm.
That downtimes, quote unquote downtime, was instrumental for me to learn to hone my craft and my skills.
Hmm. Definitely. But were you ever stressed out in those periods,
Yeah.
or yeah?
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Stressed, pissed off, uh, insecure,
Yeah.
uncertain. Um, but I just kept making music on my own. I kept doing things that I can control on my own, which is I can get up, I can go into the room, I could play my guitar, I could learn how to play other stuff, I could write music. So I used those opportunities while I was frustrated that I wasn't making more money or out there touring or doing the things that I thought would make me feel valid. I was doing very important work. And I think that's advice I always give everyone. Is just this downtime, this period where you're not being hired by other people to go on the road or to play on the records. Use that time for yourself. Get better at playing your instrument or learn another one. Work on your reading. You're just expanding your skill set. So when you do get the next job, then you can take something to that you didn't have before.
Right. Yeah, that's really good advice. And was there anything else you did in terms of getting the next job, or was it basically just, or not just, but working on your own craft? Or
that's pretty much it.
right.
Just waiting for the phone to ring. Maybe calling, hey, know anything that's going on? Anybody looking for a guitar player for a road gig? Stuff like that. You do that as well. Putting out feelers.
Definitely. And I heard you mentioned this in another interview where Tim Pierce, I think people know who he is, who's listening, but he told you that there are a lot of people that can do what I do. You just have to be a nicer guy, Has that advice? I don't know if it wasn't advice to you, but
you have to have a certain skill level to be doing what Tim Pierce does, and that's a high level. He's a fantastic musician. He's got great ears. He's got great facility. He's got great taste. So I think what he was saying that I'm not the only person that can do that. I'm saying there's other people that have that skill set, those skill sets. But it's very important that you are accommodating and that you're a good person and someone that's inspiring to work with. So I certainly hope that I didn't. By saying that, I wasn't underestimating his ability, because
no.
I have hugest respect for him. But you have to be a good person too. Let's not forget that. You have to have you got to be able to communicate well to people. You have to be courteous. You have to be dependable. You have to be available. So there's the other side of a musician that helps you stay employed, and it's all those things that have to do with you as a human being.
Exactly.
And I think also what he was saying is that a lot of jobs are, the music is simple, or simple pop music, to where it's not you're going in and reading the black page, for a Pringles commercial. It's very, very simple music. And there's just a lot of that out there. There's a lot of simple music out there. I don't say that big, but I'm just saying that a lot of times you're not required to be a virtuoso guitar player to play a lot of pop music, to play on a lot of pop music, and jobs like that.
Right. But what does it take? And you mentioned some stuff already, but what does it take to sustain a career like Tim's or yourself as a session guitarist in LA? Is there more? Yeah. What's some other stuff you've done to actually sustain your own career?
Well, the biggest one would be working in the medium of film and TV as a composer. So that's really a whole another career that I have. And that happened through session work and working with other composers as a guitar player. And then so I was able to see what they did, and as well as loving films and obviously Grid TV, and working with a agency that did music for commercials. They hired me to write and play on commercials. So that was how I got started with making music to picture.
Right.
So I was just always a person that said yes for any job. Would you be interested in this gig or job? I'm like, yeah. So open, and again through all that downtime, getting my act together, so to speak, along with working too. Those experiences too. They all combined.
But if someone comes to you and say, "Oh, hey Lyle, you want to work in this session?" How do you prepare yourself to best, or to be able to do your best work?
I don't. There's really no preparation other than if it's if it's a job where there's going to be sight reading, then I'd like to see the charts ahead of time to make sure nothing's too hard to play on the spot. Especially if there's other musicians, you don't want to be holding up the band. So that's one way specifically for preparation. But for all of the things, if it's a pop gig or something like that, or session, I usually just go to the session, learn the music right on the spot. If they don't have charts, then I'll make my own charts. This is pretty common. This is what other people do.
Right. And I was talking to Nathan East about this too, and the bass player, and he was saying he was always trying to make some statement-ish, you can call it, like, some little thing that you can just not show off. That's the wrong word, but like just for people to notice that he was playing the bass, some along those lines, and
Something you want, and I see something to bring to the session that would.
yeah, like some sprinkle, I guess. Is that ever something you try to do to just so people know? Oh, what did he do there, for example?
Yeah. Well, I think always, if someone's hiring you to play on a record, I go in with the mindset of what can I do to give this person what they want and make them happy, and that's what you want to do. You want people to love what you're doing. So you're very. I bring a very attentive mindset. I want to make sure I have all the right gear. I make sure what kind of music is it, figure out from the producer what I should have at the session. I mean, even something like, do you want it's a rock and roll gig, but are we gonna do anything odd? Should I bring, baritone guitars and 12-string guitars and, ukuleles and a banjo or, acoustic stuff? Just being able to facilitate anything that artist has on a whim, and being available, ready, and enthusiastic to do it. And then when you're playing it, play something that's good. So it's just really wanting to please the customer and provide. So that really is it's all that, just sort of amping yourself up, especially if it's someone that you really like and respect, and you're thrilled to be on the record. You want to bring your A game, essentially, just like anybody would. If anyone's going on audition, well, I better play as good as I can, or I better show up on time. I better, it's all those things. Just bringing your A game.
Yeah, I mean, showing up on time, I mean, that can't be stressed enough how important that is.
Yeah, like me being late to this podcast.
That's all right.
Apple.
That's okay, but
but I'm at my point in my career now. I can be 4 minutes late, and the people
exactly. You deserve it.
Tell everybody else out there, don't do it.
Yeah. That's cool, man.
Do what I say, not as I do.
Exactly. That was cool, man, because you also play with so many various artists, and also obviously, I mean, love to talk to you about the Superbad soundtrack, because you get to play with also some of my heroes, like Bootsy and the guys from James Brown and Funkadelic. You essentially got to, I guess, conduct them, you can call it.
Yes.
And how was that experience? I mean, because I know you said you didn't play to a click either, which I also really enjoyed, because I just enjoyed that for some reason.
Yeah, you want their internal rhythms not to be impeded by a click track. So you want them to make the music the way that they naturally make music. And So the click track was just to count us into where we start. The music starts in the movies, where each scene's musical bit started. And yeah, very much working with the Superbad musicians, I shall call them, was the process. This is making music in their comfort level, and for that it means just let's all play together. Let's play the cue. Let's practice it a few times. Let's learn it, and then we would record it, or we would practice it each time. We would rehearse it as I was looking at the screen. Until we got it right.
And you recorded at a Capitol, right?
Yes.
Who was the engineer for that?
Tom Biller was the engineer.
Oh, okay. I don't know about him, actually. There's so many great engineers working there. So
I learned about him through John Bryan. He
Right.
was doing a lot of work with John Bryan.
Who's
Do
John
you know
Bryan,
John
by the way? No.
John Bryan is a hugely talented musician, composer. He's very very highly respected.
I need to check him out then.
Yeah, it's John Jon and a Brion. John Bryan.
Right.
I'm assuming that some of your listeners or watchers might be yelling at you right now for not knowing.
Hopefully. Hopefully they do that.
Yeah, you should check him out. He's quite
Right.
incredible.
I'll do that. But so playing with Bootsy and those guys, because there's also a thing that I have noticed in being in studios with people who are just not just older than me, but have played for donkey's years. They bring this extra sauce to the table. How could you did you feel anything like that playing with those guys because they have so much experience? I mean, what was that? What was that thing like? If there was a thing like that.
Well, yeah, you're playing with stylists, people that have built a style through their, in a lot of cases, through their experience working with James Brown and Parliament and George Clinton. That iconic music was written, orchestrated by these musicians. They created a sound. They created a style. So to be in the middle of that, to hear them do that, it wasn't. I didn't say to Bootsy Collins, "Can you do something that's kind of like on a James Brown record or something that Bootsy Collins?" Because it's Bootsy Collins. So he would just play the way I want him to play because that was the music that was written. It was based on his music, his own. The music I wrote was based on those guys. So they just participated in a guy trying to be like them. I was the outsider.
Right.
So yeah, it was just great to hear it. It just sounded exactly the way I wanted it to sound.
Awesome. Yeah, it sounds killer. I mean, the songs.
Casting, they call casting. You cast the right actor because they're going to naturally be that person, or they're going to have insight to it because for whatever reason. Well, the perfect casting for funk music would be those guys that were the architect of funk music. Exactly. You couldn't get in on that. You know what I mean? So it's all in the casting.
Exactly, man. Something cool, talking about click track and stuff, like playing to a click and it gets a bit rigid maybe. I had another guy called Steve we met on the podcast last year. He does like music for games and something called, he calls it forensic re-recording. So he does a lot of re-records songs for Just Dance, the game. And he said a cool technique where when he was trying to make those authentic covers of older songs, he actually went to those songs and got the tempo map from those songs. So the click goes up and down like according to how they play it. I thought it was a pretty cool way to do music today that is so rigid, but is rigid to a click that sways a bit,
Oh yeah.
I thought it was pretty badass.
Yeah. There's a lot of fluidity and tempo working in the film and TV world. I mean, especially if you're dealing with high animated series, cartoons, it's all over the place,
Is it?
Oh yeah.
Right. How come?
Well, just because you want to hit certain moments.
Right.
you want to line up music with a certain moment on screen.
Hmm.
So that might determine that this section needs to slow down a little bit so we can hit that big downbeat
Right.
on a certain event.
But so how does that whole thing work? Because yeah, I've never done anything like that. So do you? I guess you get a some sort of clip to work to, whatever you call it, some reel.
Yes. Yeah.
And yeah, so how what's your process when you get a clip that needs a piece of music?
Yeah. So you get the movie and you put it on your computer and whatever program you're working with. In my case, it's Pro Tools. So I have the movies. I have the movie up there, and then we predetermine where the A cue, let's say the first cue, will start. And so I have there's a time code burning on the window, so I know it has to start here and I know it has to end there. And then I go through the process of just feeling the tempo, just what feels natural to based on the scene and based on conversations you've had with the director, or if it's a TV show, it's the showrunner.
Hmm.
Maybe this is already a style that's been discussed, or maybe there's already temporary music. A lot of times there's already music there, just as a filler,
Hmm.
and there's notes associated with that particular cue, like, well, we like the temporary music, but it should be more this or this or that. So something like the tempo may already be sort of worked out if they like the pacing of it, for example. So then I'll sort of know where to put the click track, where to start with the rhythm. So that's the beginning. That's the process of that essentially, and then I start to record.
That makes sense, actually.
Yeah.
Nice. And what do you do after that then? I mean, let's say there's no, let's say you have a open like blank canvas. What do you do then? You just try to get the feel that feels right.
Yeah, if it's a blank canvas, then I'm just trying different things. I just go with instincts and just based on what I'm looking and what the characters are doing, what the story is,
Hmm.
that informs all that stuff.
Hmm.
And sometimes you can get something right out of the gate. Sometimes the director or the showrunner will say, "I'm not really. I don't think that's quite it." And then they start talking, and then by them talking about why it's not right,
Hmm.
it gets out more out of them.
Hmm.
So in a way, when you learn what's wrong, you're learning what's right. How to go towards what would be right through that process. So it's all informing, even if it's
Hmm.
wrong.
And is there anything you specifically ask directors so they purposely give you good information if you really need it?
Yeah. Um, if they say, yeah, it's not right, and that's all they say, I have nothing to go on. So
Hmm.
then I try to get a little bit more information. Well, what is it? What is it about it that's not feeling right? Um, and then so you sort of have to, because a lot of times you'll work with people that are not musically savvy, so they can't. And I don't ever need that. I want to know what's happening emotionally, what's not hitting them emotionally. And so I'll say, is it giving? What feeling is this music giving you? And well, it's making me feel this way. When it's, I don't want to feel this way. I want to feel this way. So then you get to know what their parameters, what their sensibilities are, and how things affect them, and try to uh, rectify that.
Hmm.
Get close to that. So it's you get to know people's taste, and sometimes they say, "I just don't like that sound. Can you just take that sound out?" There's a lot of that too. Like they just don't respond. A certain instrument will bug them.
Hmm.
You basically learning, getting to learn people's tastes.
Right. I guess yeah, that's obviously very important. But if someone says to you, "Oh, I don't like that sound," what do you ask what sound, or is it more complicated than that?
No, yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. That's
Right,
try to
right, right,
pinpoint the most specific we can get, the better.
right, right, right.
Much better
Uh,
for me to get
yeah,
specific.
and I know you also doing a lot of library music or jingles, whatever you want to call it. I guess you can call some of what you do now maybe library music too. Um, and my knowledge of that is that it requires like a large output from you as a composer writer. So how did you turn out a lot of music if that was your experience?
How did I turn it out?
Now how do you how do you keep producing like a large quantity of music, I should say?
Well, just by doing it, just by coming in the room and having, okay, I've got to write. The thing about working in film and TV is you have to write so much music.
Hmm.
And over the course of 15 years, if you're writing hours and hours of music and you're doing revisions and you're doing things over and over again, you're just doing a lot of writing. So you're learning how to write music by doing it.
Hmm.
In the case of the live music, I've written so many songs. It's just what I do. It's just going in and putting in the work and the time.
And have you developed your own formula, maybe?
No,
No.
no. I think it's things that I may instinctively do that sound good to me. Other people, I don't really see it in myself. Other people, oh, I know that's you. And I go, really? Because I don't know what that is. I'm too close to know. But there might be certain things that I go for. Like, oh, I knew you were going to go to that chord. And a friend of mine said that to me one time when I was playing something, because I had a feeling you were going to go to that chord. I went, oh, okay. So I think there might be, if someone were to analyze my music, I'm sure they would be able to come up with some sort of some things that do point to things that I go to. Chord voicings I like.
Right.
I think anybody would do that, but I don't have a formula. I don't have a set of parameters that I go by.
Right. So it's not
And I'm
like
just
you.
out of the air, really. I'm just letting things kind of flow through me, however
Right.
natural,
Right.
more of a natural process.
So there's nothing like you do that you always tend to start out with, like let's say it's a drum beat or something like that. It can be anything.
Yeah, I tend to go more with melody and chords and melody
Hmm.
more than rhythm. I don't. Yeah, I don't. As a matter of generally, I don't write with a beat or anything like that. I mean, a lot of it depends on the style of music.
Right.
No one's going to write classical music starting with a drum beat. It depends on the style of the music.
Mm-hmm.
I think if it was rap or something, you might want to you start with a rhythm. It's all about the cadence of the words and things like that.
Mm.
If it's melodic pop music, then you're probably going to pick up the guitar or sit on the piano and just start playing something until something hits you nicely, and then that determines the rhythm of
Yeah.
it. So that comes last.
Right. Makes total
Yeah.
sense. I mean, it's funny because I used to do a lot of progressive rock music, instrumental, and I always found it really, and it's what you're saying now. It depends on the style, because when I did that sort of music, I found it easy to do a cool drum groove, because then that gave me a cool sort of rhythm, and then I can make a riff to that. But yeah, is it in line with what you're saying?
And that's fine, and that's totally fine. I mean,
Mm.
that's a way to make music. There's really no one way. Um, I think a lot of it is just stylistically
Mm.
driven as to the process. Like you said, if you just want to just come up with some really cool, great rhythm and then write over that, that's awesome. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
I
And
tend
what
to
do you
work.
do? Yeah. So what do you do if you're stuck? Let's say it just doesn't work. This piece of music with that piece of scene. How do you get unstuck?
Well, you just have to keep trying different things.
Mm.
That's it. It's like, what have I not done yet?
Mm-hmm.
That it's just that process.
So because I used to be that like that too. I always stayed in my chair until let's say it was a melody and it wasn't just working. I would keep going until there was a melody. And having talked to a few people on the show, it's been good to try different things sometimes. Like some people like just take a break, and some people
Well,
just
that's the other thing.
right.
Sometimes it takes getting trying to find a way to facilitate a different headspace.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause sometimes you could just come back 10 minutes later and go, boom, there it is.
Mm.
But if you're trying to force it and then oh, I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like that. Then you kind of, whatever, if you say you've got a muse out there, It's trying to get in, and then you put a barrier. The muse can't get through because you're fixated on not being able to do it. You know what I mean? So I think whatever different people have different processes. Some people will just take a little break, 30 seconds, do a little deep breathing, whatever. Some people have to go away for a couple minutes, or I'm just, you know what, I've got time. I'm going to come back to this tomorrow. Go get something to eat. Go just do some push-ups. I don't know. This just different things you can do.
Yeah. And what do you do before you get into the studio? So, I mean, in terms of how do you, when you feel the best coming into the studio, is there anything particular you have done before, or just random maybe?
No. Wake up, go into the studio.
Yeah. I mean, because it takes a lot of work to be creative. It's something that a lot of people, you have to schedule it in and show up, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice to be fully awake. If you're a person that exercises, it's nice to go in after a workout, just so that you're bright and your head is clear.
Do you work out and stuff?
Sometimes you don't have the ability to do that. If you're working on a schedule and it's really tight and you've got a lot to do, sometimes you can't. You have to skip the workout. So you've got to get right in the studio. I like to keep active. I like to walk and run and do upper body stuff and core exercises. But I'm not a guy that goes to the gym. I used to be that guy, but I don't have the time for it. And especially now, you can't really.
Yeah.
COVID.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's good to keep the physical structure in good shape and your mind clear. Try to keep a nice, healthy diet.
Definitely. And do you take care of yourself? Like, I know you work out and stuff, but some like meditation or just mental relaxation too?
Yeah, I do actually. I like to do some. I'm not consistently good at meditating, but I like to take some time for deep breathing and calming. And I'm not a pro at it by any means, but I do and use those techniques.
Right. Do you like to do it before you work or after you're done?
I like to do at night and when I wake up, before I get out of the bed, usually.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice, man. Have you ever tried the app Headspace?
I have Headspace. I have Calm.
Oh, okay.
I have Waking Up by Sam Harris, and teaches mindfulness. So I've studied some of that.
Cool, man. Yeah, really, I'm really enjoying doing the Headspace app myself now. Been doing also like random bits and pieces, but yeah, Headspace it's really good. I really like that Andy guy. It's really a soothing voice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that can help people.
Yeah.
Just clearing your head. If you're, and it's about being fully present. I mean, when I'm working, if I'm fully present, I'm helping the process. And if you do believe in something like higher power or the muse, or that it comes to you, you want to clear that runway, that space, so it can. And things like meditation help clear those avenues.
Definitely. And do you ever feel like, because maybe this is just me, but sometimes when you work, I can get so engrossed that I find it sometimes hard to walk away and talk to my fiance, for example. Like, it's still be thinking about whatever it is I'm working on. Do you ever get those? Do you ever get so engrossed too in the work you do?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How do you deal with that?
Well, if I'm working on a project and there's a schedule, then I'm allowed to have that space. Especially I've been with my wife now for 30 years. So she knows what she married. Oops, sorry, someone's trying to call me.
No problem.
Sorry, are you going to be able to edit this podcast, or is that going to be part of it?
We might just leave it in, keep it raw. I
All
think
right.
people are okay with a call coming in.
Real life, right?
Exactly.
So,
But yeah, you said your wife, yeah, she knows.
and she knows, I was playing in bands. She was with a management company that
Mm.
was with my band at the time. That's how I met her. So she knows that music is my life,
Mm.
and it certainly afforded us a nice house. And my son's going to a very expensive art school next year, so it worked out pretty good. This music thing.
Yeah, no, nice man. We're glad to hear that. Um, Something I want to ask before we wrap up, because the Superbad soundtrack. Just want to go back to that quick. Um, and I've seen it with other soundtracks. I think when you see there's a composer who wrote the music for a particular film, then you try to go look for the soundtrack. And like I tried to find Superbad on Spotify, but for some reason, then your songs are not on there. It's just the other songs, whatever you call them. Is that a common thing with soundtrack albums?
I don't pay attention to that stuff, to be honest. I
Right.
mean, I wished it was up there because it's a really good soundtrack record. There's in fact, I didn't even know that until you just told me
Oh
that
yeah.
my score music is not on Spotify. I didn't even know that.
Right.
Um, and that's completely in a whole nother area of music that I'm not interested in. Like why is it not there?
Right.
How do I get there? It's like, I mean, I'm not making any money from Spotify anyway, so
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that's disappointing. That's disappointing. That's not there.
Yeah.
I'm
It's
not
on
sure.
YouTube. It like.
I don't even know how to rectify that. To be honest,
Right.
or if I'm, generally when you work for, when you work for movies or you write music for movies and film, you don't own the music; they own it. You don't own the publishing. You don't own the rights to it. So it's kind of out of my hands. They already
Right.
paid me. Already paid me well enough for the job. So that's pretty much it.
Right.
I do wish it was up there.
Hmm.
Did you end up finding it ever?
Yeah, it's on YouTube, like random uploads.
Oh,
You
okay.
know, like if you Google the album,
Yeah.
the actual track list does show up, and
Okay.
if you click on like one of your songs, like Super What,
Oh, okay.
it plays a random video, but it's not
I
on.
on YouTube. Okay. Right.
Yeah, but it's not on Spotify on the Superbad Spotify release.
Yeah. That's too bad. Yeah, because I know the soundtrack. It was. I don't. I think it's even more. There's more score songs than there are songs. Other
Oh,
people's
okay.
material. So yeah, it should be mostly. Maybe it's half and half.
Hmm.
Uh, so I'm not sure what that's about.
No, yeah, it's a bit annoying, but I think maybe if you buy maybe the album, your songs are
Oh
there.
yeah.
Hopefully,
Yeah. If they still. I don't even know if it's still available to buy.
me neither. Actually, I gotta check it out.
Instruct all of your listeners and watchers to buy the Superbad soundtrack, please.
Yeah, definitely, man. And also, you have a new album coming out, right? Because I saw this promo clip on your YouTube channel.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the big one. That's the big news. It's a record I've been working on for about 5 years,
Wow.
in between scores and things like that
Mm.
of the jobs, and it's instrumental. This is my fourth record, and it's instrumental. And I went to Abbey Road and had a 63-piece orchestra.
Awesome, man.
So it's sort of me at my top level of writing, kind of
Nice.
bringing my experience working with orchestras and film to my own music, my own instrumental music. So it's called Uncommon Measures, and you could pre-order it now, but it's officially out February 19th, and it's on
Awesome.
Blue Canoe Records.
Awesome.
Blue
And
Canoe.
is on vinyl too, right?
Vinyl, CD, downloads, streaming, every format
Awesome, man. Do
that's
you know
available.
if you can book it on Amazon if you live here in the UK, or you don't know maybe?
I'm sure it'll be available. Yeah,
Hmm.
I would assume it would be available on Amazon UK.
Yeah,
Uh, if it's not, let me know because that needs to be
definitely.
fixed. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I'll
it's
let you know.
wide distribution. Uh,
Hmm.
so right now it's just a matter of getting the word out. That's what I want to do is let people know about it.
Yeah, because in that clip on your YouTube channel, that's also that really reminded me of Frank Zappa too, which is the combination between the melody, the orchestra with the guitar, and just
Yeah,
the rocky vibe a bit. So
yeah.
yeah, looking forward to hearing the whole album, man.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I appreciate it.
It's gonna be cool.
Really proud of it. It's the best thing I've ever done in music. For me,
Awesome,
today.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's gonna be really cool. Check it out, man. To check it out. So yeah, I look
But,
forward to it. But is there anything else people should go and check out in terms of your music or your films that you've done?
I would say that I have a YouTube channel that has a good amount of some of this library music that we talked about for Facebook, but it's really my own music. It's like if I were to make my own records in various different styles. You could also find it on iTunes and Apple Music. There's several. Just last year, or actually, yeah, 2020, I released 12 records
Wow.
or EPs of all this music I've been writing over the past 5 years in different styles. And I've got some like heavy metal stuff, some prog metal. I've got uh, uh, jazz, Latin jazz. I've got blues rock and roll,
Hmm.
all these different styles. So if you just you can look them up on. If you just look up my name on iTunes, you can find a lot of that material. That's
Awesome.
new. But mostly this record, Uncommon Measures, that would be the thing that I would like people to check out.
Definitely. Yeah, I'll leave a link to all that stuff so people
Oh,
can.
great! Thanks, I appreciate it.
You're welcome, man. But Lyle, it's been a pleasure. Really nice talking to you.
Well, nice to talk to you in Leeds.
Exactly.
Leeds, Leeds holds a very dear place in my heart because my favorite live record of all time is fill in the blank.
I know. I don't know.
The Who.
Ah, live in Leeds.
Yes,
Yeah.
my favorite live record of all time. The Who live at Leeds.
I don't think I've
And
ever
I
heard
was
that
the
one.
band that played Leeds. We played that same university. I just
Ah,
couldn't believe I was standing on that same ground because that record to me when I was 14 years old was like the Bible. That was
wow.
like the greatest thing I'd ever heard in my life. And I was in a band. We played the whole record from start
Hmm.
to finish. A
Wow.
three band. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a huge Who fan.
Awesome, man. I mean, that's like what Sling Castle, what Live at Sling Castle with Red Hot Chili Peppers was to me. I used to rinse that DVD with my
Oh yeah.
parents. Yeah.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah. So
Yeah, that's it, man. But yeah, Lyle, pleasure. Um,
thank you for your interest. I appreciate talking with you.
Thank you, Lyle. Awesome having you on, and hope you, the listener, enjoyed this interview as well. Again, check out Lyle's music, all links below. Check out his new record that is coming out. Order it or pre order it whenever you're listening to this conversation interview. Also, check out the Best of 91, the playlist I talked about in the intro. Also, link to that in the description below. Everything is in the description essentially. And also, before you leave, please hit subscribe to the YouTube channel, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you are listening or watching this show. I really do appreciate your support, and we're growing slowly but steadily, and that's all thanks to you. So, thank you, and I hope you're enjoying the content here. Also, check out the Audio Tribe email list, link to that again below. Enter your name and email address, and you have joined the Audio Tribe email list. If you join, you get exclusive access to interviews before the public and much more I'd like to do in the future. But that's it for today. Really appreciate you coming on, listening, and watching. But see you next week, so take care.